Driver, start your engine! In the beginning, stock cars outran the police to deliver the hooch to our ancestors. So sweet. Are you ready for a trip down victory lane, where Richard Petty's winnings were insane and Dale Earnhardt put everyone to shame? Canadian Junior Hanley is in the Hall of Fame. Live from Haldeman County, it's time for the Driver in Deep podcast. Are you ready?
Welcome everyone to the Driver in Deep podcast, brought to you by wingnutsports.com. Today's episode is brought to you by weathertech.ca. I'm sure you've all heard how great WeatherTech laser-measured floor mats are, and I for one can tell you that they're worth every penny.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever tried to get the salt stains from over the winter out of your carpet? With WeatherTech, you don't need to, because they cover the front, back, and the sides of your floors, and even in the cargo area if you happen to have an SUV.
Yeah, I have a dog and kids. I can tell you that none of them care about bringing mud or dirty snow or anything else into the car. Speaking of dogs, my Boston Terrier, Echo, loves to go for car rides, but I hate it when I get paw prints all over my seats. And WeatherTech also sells awesome seat protectors that I just discovered, and I don't have one yet, but I did just order it.
Oh, nice. Not only that, they have, from what I can tell, the best pet feeding systems on the market, cup and desk phone holders, and even cleaning supplies.
Yeah, as you can tell, we both love WeatherTech, so they really are the perfect sponsor of the Driver in Deep podcast.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mark.
I said pardon?
I know, that may be a first.
Well, maybe if they rename the Leafs to the Toronto WeatherTechs, we'd agree more often, Alex.
You would like that. Listen, be sure to check out weathertech.ca and be sure to use promo code DIDpodcast when you check out.
Yes, that's weathertech.ca, and we thank them for sponsoring the Driver in Deep podcast. Hey, Alex, how's your day been?
Great. Anytime that I get a chance to get out on my bike, it's a good day. I even ran into our buddy today, Billy T, while I was out.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I come up to a stop sign and, us dumbass bikers, we give this old peace sign to each other, whatever it is we do, because we have a motorcycle. And I'm at an intersection and Billy goes by, give each other the old wave, the biker wave.
Oh, yeah.
Next thing you know, he's backpedaling, looking back at me, and I realized it was him giving me the old finger. And he turned around. We ended up shooting the shit for a while. It was good.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we chatted about how shitty it is you don't have a bike.
Oh, wow.
Anyways,
was he by himself?
Yeah, he had just left with Billy and Mike. They had rode for a little bit.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So it was good to see him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good.
And then, to be honest, doing this podcast today, I'm just pumped that you're going to join us, because I figured for sure you'd be out on your third or fourth round of disc golf practice today, and you'd skipped out. I was waiting for a text. I'm not going to be able to make it, Alex. I'm tied up. But anyways, I thought I'd probably be solo on here. And once you go pro, I'm probably going to be solo anyway.
Well, I'm not sure how long that may or may not take, but, definitely want to try to improve a little bit. And just so you know, I was doing a little research online.
Really?
Yep. And I came across a former world champion that's doing disc golf clinics. And I don't think it's going to work for us this year, because number one, they're sold out, and number two, it's only in the States. $300 for a day, and he says he'll do before and after videos, and by the time he's finished with you, you'll have all the tools you need. So what do you think? Are you interested?
You called him?
No, I didn't, but this is what he's saying online.
Wasn't Scott Stokely, was it?
It was. Steckley, but...
No, it's not. Steckley is like 4-time NASCAR Pinty Series champion. Scott Stokely.
Oh, is it Stokely?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's the difference.
See, you've been online looking, is what you're telling me.
Well, no, one guy's on TV. That's my buddy Scott Steckley, because he's a true champion. The other guy's...
A disc golf champion?
He's a true race car champion.
Oh, okay.
And your buddy there, Scott Stokely, does online clinics on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've watched them?
My wife has.
Yeah? What do you think? Did she...
My wife has.
Oh, you have not watched him at all? So how come you know who he is?
She told me.
Oh, okay. So what do you think?
No, she said to me, "Do you know Scott Steckley disc golfs too?" I said, "No, it's not Scott Steckley."
So what do you think? Are you interested in going to a clinic with me when he's in our area?
Oh yeah. Listen, when it happens, let me know. I'll get back to you on it.
Okay. Well, if you're not going to do that, I have another suggestion.
Oh, great.
Your sister-in-law and brother-in-law have a dance studio, right?
No, my sister-in-law and my brother does.
Or your brother, sorry, and your sister-in-law. They have a dance studio.
Yeah.
Well, have you signed up? Well, I'm just wondering.
Signed up for dance?
Well,
dude, I haven't even been there.
Listen, anything that you could do to help your footwork for disc golf would be a benefit, because after watching you the other day, obviously you need some lessons in footwork.
Listen, the difference between me and you is this.
You don't care.
I could care less if I
play
play disc golf again. And you, like every one of your new fads, you're all in for about a week and a half. You become a pro.
Yeah.
And then you move on to the next nerdy thing.
No, I think this one's going to stick.
I've been committed to stuff all my life, man. At high levels. And you know what? I'd rather go ride bikes, meet up with our friends. When you used to do that?
Yeah. Well, you disc golf with me. Aren't we hanging out with friends doing that?
No, that's me and you.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying my back's a little sore. That's all. From carrying you around the disc golf course.
Yeah.
All day. Yeah. I know. And listen, you're either, I will say one thing though, Alex. You may not care about how good your game or how good your game isn't in disc golf. But one thing I know what you care about is that you're not going to lose a disc.
100%.
And I even have a video of you going into a swamp and you got it. So good for you.
Damn right.
Yeah, I know that.
$20 is $20, man.
Well, that's if you had paid for it in the first place.
Well, somebody paid $20 for it. I paid $5 from Colin.
For one of them. The other one you found, so I guess you're still up $5.
Anyways, listen. Today we got a very talented racer on with us. He's had a ton of success, and he's really well respected in the industry, in the motorsports industry for sure. He's been south of the border, north of the border. Mm-hmm. I've known this dude pretty much all of his life, and I'm pretty excited to have him today.
Well, that's great. Who is it?
Well, it's Pete Shepard III, and he's on with us today, so let's welcome him in.
All right, sounds good. Hey, Alex, we have Pete Shepard here right now. So, Pete, thanks so much for joining Alex and I on Driver in Deep.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mark and Alex, for having me. I'm excited about the show.
Awesome. Hey, Pete, I don't know even where to start with you, man. How about the Toronto Maple Leafs? I see our listeners can't see, but right now you got this beautiful Toronto Maple Leafs hat on. And I think Mark has one in his closet, and he always enjoys a bit of Leaf talk.
Yeah, I think so. I think every hockey fan from this area that pretends they're not a Leaf fan, they really are a Leaf fan at the heart. So yeah, I'm sporting this beautiful hat in honor of their trade they made today. I think that
great trade,
the missing piece.
Oh, I didn't hear about a trade.
Yeah, I didn't tell you because I don't want you to be all pissy.
Oh. Who did they pick up? Who did they pick up?
Foligno.
Really?
Really?
Oh, he's over the hill.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's I don't know. Who's he gonna play? Who's he gonna play with? Is he gonna be second line with Tavares?
Well, he's first line on Buffalo, Columbus, but he'll be fourth line on the Leafs. Not a bad deal.
Well, I wish you the best of luck because the playoffs are going to be a little different animal like usual.
Anyways, listen, people don't want to hear about hockey in this podcast when we have a guest like we do tonight with Pete. So let's get some racing going here.
You got it.
For those that don't know, you are from a racing family, Pete, and some would say racing royalty, as a matter of fact. Your grandpa, Bill Zardo, was a successful racer, along with your dad. Your mom, I got to race with both of those folks, and also your cousins race. So there's no surprise that you become a successful racer yourself. Do you remember how this all got started for you?
I actually don't remember because it happened before I have any existent memory. I know there's banners and stuff of flags saying it's a boy when my dad picked up a feature winner. A week later, apparently that's at a racetrack. So I don't actually remember when it began. It was just always been a part of my life. And one thing I do remember, though, is, standing out on the bottom, hoping my dad would win the race. And sometimes you'd take that away from him and I wouldn't get a chance to get my picture taken. So
Sorry,
usually him or you in victory lane. So that's one fond memory I have from my childhood for sure.
That's great. With your start coming in karts and then moving into full-size race cars, do you feel that this is still a great way for people wanting to get involved in the sport to follow?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably the only way, really. Obviously, you can go through the dirt sanctions and sprint car, micro sprints and stuff like that. But what I found with the karts, the way these late models drive now, they're similar. There's not a lot of movement in the chassis. They're very rigid. A lot of momentum in karts as well. It's a 4-cycle scene that I kind of grew up in. But yeah, they're very good. A lot of competitive nature comes out of that, and they're very, very racy. So, very good way to start, I think.
Yeah, I agree. We talk often about how people can get started, and I always said, obviously karting's so popular to start with, and it's really it's really growing again, which is awesome for our industry for sure. But there's so many different ways, but I think that's probably the most common. And for you, Pete, you made your way through the ranks. You went from like Mark said, go-karts, and then thunder cars, which is a great class, all-star late model series, super late models. Then you made your way up to the CASCAR Super Series. Maybe talk a bit about all these great divisions and what sticks out to you the most about all of them, or one in general.
Yeah, they all were just a massive piece of my development as a driver. And, collectively, the versatility through racing that I gained driving all these different cars, the way they drive are all completely different. So that was very good. But standout moments was, the first time I ever sat in a race car at a go-karts, and it was like, wow, what am I doing? Like putting around the first few laps, think you'll never pick up on it. And then one day it just clicks, right? And that's kind of how it happened. Was a little bit slow out of the gates, but then boom, it was like win after win after win. So, that was probably the biggest thing, was getting my first stock car win and then realizing I could do it.
Yeah, I know at that time, you went to Thunder Cars and right away you made some noise, and I thought that was so great. Actually, maybe at the time I didn't, because I still probably was mad at your dad, and I thought there's no way that kid can do well. But no, it didn't matter what you raced, man. You done well, and it was great for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And I can tell you that your first experience in a race car is nothing like my first experience in a race car, because mine did not propel me into anything significant whatsoever.
No, as a matter of fact, he's on jack stands in Jimmy's shop.
I see what the race shop's being used for now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Pete, in 2005, you ended up being part of the Roush Driver X program that was aired on Discovery Channel, I believe. And it was a competition to see who would advance, and you earned a spot in the final 6 from that competition. And then you signed as a development driver with Roush Racing. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so it was an incredible experience, actually. I remember at the time we were running a Mopar Dodge, and it was actually the fellow that recommended me to Roush for this competition. I believe it was Rick Rigby, who was with Ford Canada at the time.
Right.
And so that was quite an honor being, chosen to be that Canadian, kind of put my name in the hat to get me in over, I think, 1,700 applicants. And out of that, they took 25 drivers to actually go test the truck series, trucks on Martinsville first, Darlington second. You look back now at the names, and it was pretty incredible. We had David Reagan, who had a great Cup career. Justin Allgaier was there. Bubba Pollard. I think I said Allgaier already, but there's just to name a few, like pretty much, Johnny Clark, the who's who of everybody. So I was fortunate. I got to room up with Augie Vidovich, who became one of my best friends. He was in his wedding when he got married in California there, but he was maybe one of the more underrated race car drivers I've ever seen. And what they did with us as cast is they kind of kept us aside so we couldn't watch each other run the test laps. But I found a hole in Martinsville where I could just see kind of one end. It's funny, we just finished Martinsville today, but that was the first place. And I remember seeing Augie turn laps. Like, wow, this guy's good. I don't know what I'm doing in this truck, but I'm just going to try and do exactly what he did. And it paid off. We turned some fast lap times. I think we were faster than Ricky Craven, and I think P2 and everybody in the whole field. So it was impressive, and that kind of moved me to the second round. So that was pretty exciting.
So with all those drivers, how quick did they pare down, Pete? Did they go in steps, or how did that work?
Yeah, it was. It was basically trying to think, like it was like a 5-part process, and I made it to what they would call the semifinals. They cut us down from 25 to 14, and then they brought a few extras back who showed some promise, but maybe didn't have a lot of stock car experience. So after the 25 at Martinsville, they cut us down to 14. That was probably the most awkward part because it was a reality TV show. So they had to get the handshake right for everybody who was cut, and the poor guys who were cut, they had to shake our hand like 5 or 6 times because the film crews weren't getting it done right. So that was pretty sad there, but that's got to be a tough pill to swallow. But we ended up making through that one. As I said, they brought some back to run Martinsville. So I think all in all, there was maybe 17 of us that ran at Martinsville. And they cut it down to 6, which was the final 6 was Eric Darnell, David Reagan, Danny O'Quinn, Matt McCall, who's a crew chief now for the one car, so Kurt Busch, myself, and Augie. And that was around where they virtually, I guess, eliminated us. And they put a final 2x2 stretch, which was Darnell, Reagan, O'Quinn, and Matt McCall were the final four, I guess you could say it.
Right.
But what happened was my parents actually made the trip to South Carolina to Darlington, which was the second stint of that. And they were kind of just watching me go and having some fun. And the president of Roush at the time was Jeff Smith, a fellow by the name of Jeff Smith, and told my parents not to go too far because they wanted to sit down and talk about maybe getting me to North Carolina and run some races for them. So that was really, really exciting for sure. Made the trip worthwhile for them. Just an incredible experience overall.
Yeah, so so many of us from around this area were cheering you on during that whole process.
Yeah.
It was pretty exciting for all us folks watching as well.
And the fact that, you didn't know the question I was going to ask you, but you still clearly remember from 2005 all the people that were in the semifinal. That's amazing. Obviously, that had a major impact on you.
It did, yeah. And just like I said, it was funny because Jack himself, we always called him Mr. Roush. That's what I never was told to call him that, but I was told, I guess, by other people that that's probably the way to approach it when you talk about him. So I remember him coming. He would come on the mic. He would be mic'd up every time we'd run. So I got on Martinsville for the first time, and I turned some pretty impressive laps, I guess. And we ended up going to Darlington the week after, and he's like, "Wow, you're doing a good job on Darlington. Like, what's the biggest track you've ever been on? This has got to be the biggest track. What's the next biggest track?" And I thought about it for a second, and I replied back and said, "I guess Martinsville's the second biggest track I've ever been on." So it was kind of a funny response I got at him that time. And I think that, we hit it off that way too. I think I was just personable. I spoke to him at kind of his level, and I was young, obviously, but I understood at that point I was gifted with the marketing side of the business, and I think that was helpful in my time there too.
Yeah, we kind of, or maybe I did, steered clear of all those different series originally, but that opportunity, like you say, with Rick Rigby from Ford, great guy. And that was all through the CASCAR Super Series. And I don't want to shortchange that. You're there year and a half before we move on. I just want to go back. Despite all the other divisions, the All-Star Series was awesome, and Chisholm did a great job, and Thunder Cars and Super Late Models. But that CASCAR Super Series, getting in there prior to, while Tony still had it, that was really probably the biggest reason why you got that opportunity, correct? You had some success.
100%. Yeah, and you nailed it on the head. It's exactly why. I mean, without that series and what Tony did for racing in Canada, that at the time, like, I remember my first, and that's where things have kind of changed, unfortunately, with racing. But I remember my first season there, like, I don't know if it was a consi at Delaware, but there was so many cars that showed up. I think there was maybe 34 or 36 cars at Delaware Speedway, and we qualified 16th, and we weren't that mad about it. Like, there was a tough field of cars there, right? And it was just so good for me from that side of the business, how well Tony had the marketing lined up, how professional the series was, and just really driving those cars too. You know yourself, Alex, they're kind of a different animal, a lot heavier, which gave me some experience going into driving those trucks and the way they transition. Really underrated for how difficult they are to drive versus a lot of other divisions out there.
Yeah, and the competition, like you said, Pete, with the number of cars, and back when me and Mixie and everybody else, well, Mixie raced from start to finish and just retired this year, but all the guys we got to race with, like we'd go to 60 car fields, man, it's incredible. We've talked about this. I think almost any Canadian or Ontario guest we've had on this show, it always gets back to CASCAR, how, DJ, everybody else. And, it's, just so incredible. And Tony was so far ahead of his time, man. That guy is so incredible. And if you didn't appreciate him then, everybody appreciates him now for sure. But
absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't want to shortchange that because that was a huge part of why that whole Roush thing happened for sure.
It was.
And I understand probably as well as anybody, timing and circumstances can play such a huge part in our industry, our sport. And I was hoping you could maybe tell all of our listeners, even ourselves, Mark and I, how close you were at times, or how close you were at times during that time being down south, that there's possibly some bigger or better opportunities. And I know there's some stuff that went sideways, and just talk a bit about that, how close, now by living it, how close, how fine of a line it is to getting that next chance or not.
Yeah, it is like I said, it's almost like riding a wave of momentum you can't really predict. Like, when you are hot, you're hot. And you know what it is, when you come off a win, the confidence you have and stuff, and how good you run. I know my first ARCA start for Roush was with the Ruler brothers, who were also a big part of my development when it comes to racing in general. But Gary and Gary Rulo over there and Rusty, they were incredible and taught me a lot about driving race cars. And my first ever start for Roush through Ruler Brothers at Gateway in St. Louis, we finished 4th. I think I just snuck by Frank Kimmel at the end of the race. So that was big, and it was like just riding the wave of momentum. Like right away, I went to the Tuesday meeting with Roush, and they're like, "Wow, first start, ran fourth. Let's put him in the 6 truck for Mark Martin in a couple of weeks." You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
just getting your feet wet, and you have a good run, and that's what it could do for you. But on the same token, like the lows are just as bad, right? After a while, it's just it gets tougher if you're not hitting it out of the park. It's a fine line you're walking.
Yeah, absolutely. The like you say, it's such a fine line. It's crazy how it can go one way or the other. And I also wanted to touch on this, and with your association with Roush, I know you got to meet some great people, and I know you're not a guy to boast, but I know you spent some time with Carl Edwards, and you also drove his USAC car, did you not?
I did, yeah, and that was something else. I never thought in my life that that'd be the route that I'd ever go down, go racing, but that was the wild experience. You talk about car control and getting up to speed and driving something off the right rear tire. Before driving those cars, I actually liked my car a little bit snug, and that changed the whole way I approached race weekends and the way I wanted cars to drive. So that was just an incredible experience. What I learned from him, and I remember my first run at Homestead Speedway in a Silver Crown car, doing 205, 210 miles per hour.
Wow. Going
into turn 1, and we have an open cockpit in those new generation cars.
Yeah.
So your head's buffering in the wind. You had to close the headrest and just to stop your head from shaking in the wind, almost like you're riding a motorcycle or something. And I could hardly see because of the sunlight. The sun beaming down in Miami Speedway. And I was like, I was struggling getting into one, and I remember Carl showed up. He flew in over the Everglades, which he wasn't a big fan of, but he showed up and was like second faster right away. And I said, "How do you get in that corner that fast? I can't even see where I'm going." He's like, "You know what, Pete? What I think about is when I go in that corner, if I can't see, nobody else can see neither. So I'm going to drive it in twice as hard as they are because I know they're having trouble over there." So that's the kind of stuff that you learn from a guy like him. He was kind of crazy on the outside, on the outside looking in, and when it comes to, upstairs, when it comes to just driving race cars hard. But he definitely had a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience to share with me.
That's cool. I've never had a chance to meet Carl. I had a chance to meet a bunch of different people, but never Carl. And he's always intrigued me. I was always a fan of his. And, he's so mysterious, I guess, in a sense where he retired so early and all that stuff. But you talking about what he knew about the sport. And I always thought he was super, super smart and not just a good driver. There's some people that are good drivers and they don't really know why or how. But I always thought he was one of those guys that knew the ins and outs.
Yeah, he was a student of the game for sure. People don't really, I don't think they, also maybe some people do know, but his IQ level was incredible. Like his thought process, he's a very unique thinker, mathematician, just very, very intelligent, always very intertwined with the race cars and what was going on. I know I was talking to one of the executives from Roush, how they actually found him, as he was running with Mittler Brothers, and I guess they were watching him drive the heck of that Mittler Brothers truck. It wasn't always the best equipment, but they worked really, really hard.
I remember that.
And I guess and the sway bar unhooked on that truck one time, and they were saying that he was driving it with an unhooked sway bar, and he drove it up like 6 or 7 positions into the top 10. They're like, this guy could wheel a car. So that's kind of what really caught the eye of the people there at Roush.
Wow, that's a great story. And probably some of these stories that you just told are some of the greatest memories of your career. Then you come back to Ontario, and you raced in some NASCAR Pinty Series. And I don't know a lot of people in racing myself, but I understand that someone we both know was your crew chief for a time in that series.
I don't know who that might be. Actually, there's a guy in the back of the room that looks kind of familiar. I think it might have been Alex. Yeah, no, that was talk about a 360-degree full circle. There's all the funny stories that I hear because I was too young to be a part of it. But the grudges and some of the battles that he had with my dad, and here we are, Shepard and Nagy teamed up trying to win races together. So that was quite an experience.
Yeah, I can tell you that I've told you, Pete, for me it was a highlight of my career. I'll tell you right now.
Well, thank you. Me too. That was awesome.
Working on that side of the fence from a past racer. I remember everything that me and your dad went through and our families throughout the Flamborough days. And like you say, you've heard about him. We've talked about him on the show a little bit too. And, Dave Jacobs, friend of ours, of course, I raced against Dave, and you've done a bunch of stuff with Dave. I remember, I told the story one time when Dave called me about coming to crew chief for Tagliani because he's so high maintenance, needs somebody to control him. And then, I got a call. Listen, Shep's coming to do a bunch of races with us. We need a crew chief. What do you think? I'm like, I think that'd be real cool. But like, have you told his mom and dad? Cause I'm not sure that's going to work out very good. And, we had all those battles for all those years, man. And that was, 2007 or 8, something like that. And to be honest, despite the respect we had and, how much I liked your mom and your dad, and we never really talked. Like we we went through all those battles, and your dad went late model racing, I went CASCAR racing, and we never really crossed paths again. And then Jacobs calls me up with this opportunity to crew chief for Pete 3. I'm like, that'd be cool, but how's this going to work out? And he goes, no, I talked to Pete, your dad, Pete 2, and it's all good. And I think our first race was in Nova Scotia, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And
yeah,
we met the night before in the bar at Boston Pizza and shot the shit for a bit. Went to the racetrack the next day, and your mom and dad came, and your grandpa, Pete won. And
yeah.
I thought, oh yeah, here we go. And and you know what? That's, I think, when we all started gaining even more respect, because your dad and your grandpa know so much about racing that they never once interfered. The odd time your dad come to me and said, listen, you know, what do you think about this? And we got chatting about it. Next thing you know, it's so funny because our second go round with each other became nothing but respect after that. And as you know now, me and your mom and dad and my wife Sandy and you and Britt and everybody were all best friends. So it's funny, like you say, 360 degrees. Funny how it all worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. That was something. What a way to kind of ease the tension going on an East Coast trip together first. That's a good way to kind of laid back East Coast. So kind of assimilate our team that way first was a perfect situation. And we got better and better. We took a car that was, I guess, kind of being cycled out by Dave at the end of the year, and we made it faster every weekend.
We didn't have the best piece, but we did well. Yeah, we accomplished a bunch in a short period of time for sure. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Alex has shared a bunch of the Nagy Shepherd stories with me, and he's talked about some of them on here on our podcast. But honestly, I think it's great that after all these years of battling each other, your whole families are such great friends now. So last season, you drove full-time in the APC series, driving the number 22 car. And I see that you're back again this year. How is that going, and what are your expectations heading into 2021 in this very competitive series?
You know, it's funny, you don't always, it's hard to keep track of statistics unless you're winning races, because that's all that matters, right? We want to win as many races as we can. And I was actually surprised to see 8 career starts, 7 career top 5s, and like an average of 3.75 as a finish. And it all sounds great on paper, but what we want to do is win races, right? So, I mean, anything short of not winning, that's what we show up every weekend to do. We figure the points look after themselves. As you guys know, I've never really run too many full seasons in my life. I've never been a true points racer. The goal is to win races and put the 22 in victory lane. That was the goal last year, and that's the goal again this year. And I think everything else will kind of follow along if we can get a little bit better and make that happen.
Yeah. You know, that deal came along when our buddy Coxie there retired, right? And we called you up, and that opportunity came up, which is what I thought that was awesome. You've been involved, like you say, never did a bunch of points racing, but from trucks to, you know, to super late models and All-Star Series and all those, and CASCAR and NASCAR PT Series. I'm pretty sure that this APC series is as competitive or more so than any series you've probably been involved in. Am I wrong?
Oh, you're 100% right. It is tough as nails. Like, the cars are so evenly matched up. You can be 23rd in a practice session and not be too far off, right? Very rarely do you see that in the form of motorsports. And I can't thank our fellow Leaf fan friend Luke Ramsey for putting me in that ride.
Yeah.
We all know how big of a Leaf fan he is too, right, Alex?
Yeah, so, the Leaf Red Wings.
You know, I think, Alex, that you're doing this to me on purpose. You're bringing everyone on our podcast that's not a Sabres fan.
Don't pay attention. Like, you need to pay attention. Luke's got the same problem you do.
Oh, here we go.
Except his team's the Red Wings. It's the same crap.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, he's what a series he has running there. And one thing that I want to touch on too is, like, you know, being kind of a middle child of racing, almost a middle generation racer. Like, I'm one of the guys fortunate who's raced against Junior Hanley at New Smyrna Speedway when I was 15, 16 years old, right? And then kind of coming back and racing against this generation. What surprises me is how good people are that fast now. Like, they get into a late model and you hear their names maybe in another division, but they're instantly ready to compete when they come over. And I don't know if that's the virtual racing everybody does, but it's just incredible, the competition level. Anyone with a half decent car is going to be competitive and can win races.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. And I was thinking about asking you that when we were talking about how you get into racing. And I think if we don't touch on that, or you just did, but listen, iRacing is a part of it. You know, I know this is recorded, you know, in advance of when this is going to be aired, but today, who won the Xfinity race?
This is Josh Berry, right?
Josh Berry.
Yeah.
Where did, you know, he met Dale Jr. in iRacing. He raced legend cars when I ran Twin Fountains Raceway down in Shelbyville, Tennessee. What a great family. I know that was when iRacing wasn't really sexy, but that stuff now does play a part in people's development for sure. And if you start racing and you want to speed that, it's like anything, right? No matter what you do, everybody's just smarter because there's more information out there. But a couple things I want to touch on, Pete. We shouldn't, scoot past this talking about Xfinity racing, but I think it was 2018 you had a chance to do your first, I think your only Xfinity race, correct?
It was, yeah, and that was something that, we were touching on too. It was so close when I was down there, it never happened. So it was kind of a lifelong dream, but I wanted to get in something and do that. One other story too. I mean, Carl Edwards one time he was running the Cup race. So practice, I think, was Atlanta and Memphis, Tennessee. He couldn't make practice. So I practiced his 60 Xfinity Series car.
Oh, cool.
And ended up qualifying it for him. But he made it back just in time for the race. I was sweating buckets because I thought I was going to have to start the race there. It would have been great, but at the same time, he's going for an owner's championship, right? So, but yeah, that was my first official start where I ran the whole race at Iowa Speedway. Great place. We have lots of friends in Iowa that came out and saw us race there as well. But it was just, like I said, a track that I was somewhat familiar with. We kind of ran the Silver Crown Series there, and I did a lot of ARCA testing. So to get out there and do that was a lifelong experience. It wasn't the greatest team, like I said, but it was something that I've always wanted to do, and it was mission accomplished. It was a fun weekend overall.
Yeah, I'll bet it was. Must have been pretty cool. Not many people get that chance. I mean, we have, guys you raced with now, like Alex LeBay, that's doing it full time, which is great. And so yeah, it's a pretty big deal for sure. DJ's done a bunch of those, and there's not many more than a handful of Canadians that can say they've done it. So good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
We don't want to keep you all night, man, but listen, I just want to, before we get out of here, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you or how they can follow you on Facebook or any social media.
Twitter, Instagram,
also,
all that stuff, yeah. We
should also talk about your little business that you and Brittany have, Driven for Communications. Tell people what you do there and what they can, what you can do for them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've always thought that was maybe a hard part of racing for anybody is to kind of get what businesses want to see as formal documents. Like, it's always great to start conversations, but if you don't have that physical piece of paper to say, hey, listen, like, this is what we can offer you, this is what we're all about, right? Giving them some kind of a buying proposal, even proposition, is something they need to have. So my wife's very talented in marketing. I went to school for marketing as well, and we just do it for the love of motorsports. We make a little bit of side money off of it, obviously, but proposals, hero cards, basically anything to promote yourself in racing with Driven for Communications. We do that, and we're passionate. With COVID, we haven't done as much as we'd like, but we still have fun, and we're still open for business.
Alex, I have to give you a compliment. The last 3 podcasts we've done are from marketing guys. I didn't know you're a marketing guy, Pete. Your wife, Brittany. We had Luke on last week and Tony from Pinty's before. So that's 3 in a row, Alex.
It's all for you, pal.
That's a winning streak. That's a winning streak.
When your hockey team sucks, they try to make you happy.
Yeah. Listen, wait till the playoffs start. We'll see if we're still having the same conversation.
You're not in the playoffs, man. I can tell you that already.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Oh.
Matthews might have as many goals as the Buffalo Sabres in total.
Let's stop talking about this. Here we go. Yeah.
Every time he scores, Pete, I text him, AM34.
Yeah, no. You're not the only one. That's my phone blows up, AM34.
I'll send you his cell number after this, Pete, and you can get on the bandwagon.
Perfect, yeah. Well, bombard him.
I still say he's Ron Jeremy's child, so.
You could be right. It's funny you say that. We were in, was it before COVID? We were in the Bahamas, and Ron Jeremy actually showed up on our, Atlantis Resort. So I got to meet him there, which is hilarious. But yeah, he does look a lot like him.
That's awesome. Well, that's great, Pete. I really appreciate you coming to talk to us. Great interview, and I hope that we can get you back on again soon. Maybe sometime during the playoffs. I wish you the best of luck. 1967 was a long time ago.
Like I tell him, Pete, at least the Leafs had won a cup.
Yeah.
Yep. I can't remember it, but I know it's there.
Exactly. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it very much, and best of luck this year.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Mark, Alex.
Okay, bye for now. Hey, Alex, what another great interview that was.
Yeah, like I said to you, Mark, he comes from a great racing family, and I think you know that now for sure.
Yeah.
I hope he's in for a good season. I think he is. That dude, he doesn't rest. He thinks the game all the time, and there's not a thing that, a day that goes by or a minute that goes by, he's not trying to get better. Like 25, 30 other drivers in that series, so it's crazy, but you got to be ready for sure.
No question. And you know what? I have to say I'm also a fan now, and I can almost forgive him for being a Leafs fan.
What about me?
That's going to take a lot longer.
I understand. Hey, can you tell our listeners once again how they can support us?
Yeah, I can. Facebook. If you search for Wingnut Sports, You'll find us there. That's where we have a lot of our conversation going on. And also you can find us on Instagram and Twitter. I'll be honest, we haven't done as much there as we have on Facebook. You can find us at wingnutsports.com on both of those platforms. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we do ask you that you take a second to like our podcast. We would certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And also on Facebook and sometimes Twitter, depending on what we get to, but always on Facebook, you're going to find some funny pictures or photos or videos. And I'm sure you may even see a picture of Nags in the swamp.
Yeah.
Find his disc, I'm sure.
I'm going to show them a photo of you finding your disc.
That's awesome. Anyway, listen, it's been the Driver in Deep podcast with your hosts, Mark and Alex. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks very much for listening.
We're wide open sideways.
All right, you're clear.
The talk is cheap.
You're clear on this.
We got the foot to the floor. We're gonna drive her in deep.
Gonna be on the inside of you. All right, you're clear. Got a slow boat coming up on your inside. All right, you're clear. You're clear on this. Gonna be on the inside of you. All right, you're clear.